respond to people who say, that the protesters aren't specific enough? What do you think about that? Do you think they aren't, or is it very broad-based, or are there a lot of things that are a matter of consensus?
We always operate by consensus. Obviously, each person here is here by free association as independent people. So I think that although we don't have a well-oiled PR machine where we have one spokesperson, we do, if you take the time to listen, you'll find the common thread of why we're all here. And my entire time here, I've been here since the first day. Every single person I've talked to here has echoed the sentiments that I've had, which is that our government, our corporations, our parties, our media should all be accountable for what they do here. I think that's the common thread.
I was wondering, what makes you think that now is the time for this to happen on Occupy Wall Street? What makes this different?
I think the reason why this happened now is because we've tried to have our voices heard, and we've tried to have our interests represented simply by voting every 4 years. And we found out that that is not enough. We cannot simply every 4 years go to the ballot box and vote for someone who we think represents our interests, and then go home and watch TV every day and think that things are going to change. We need to stay out here, and whether it's President Obama, whether it's the Republicans in the House, they all need to be held accountable if they're not representing the legitimate interests. So I don't think anyone's out here saying we're spokespeople for the Democratic Party. That's not true. If they're not representing our interests, if they're in bed with the big interests, we need to hold them accountable too publicly. So I think that's why we're here.
We have auctions, not elections now. It goes to the highest bidder.
That's largely true. I mean, if money now equals speech, and money is concentrated largely in the hands of a few people, then now, by logic, they speak for us, and we're no longer entitled to speak for ourselves. And I don't think that that's American.
Okay. I don't know about everyone else, but for us, just kind of summarizing and the question. I mean, what do you think would make this like a win for the protest, or what would make this a success? What would you like to? The biggest thing you would like to see happen as a result from the occupation protests?
That's a really good question, which we are in the process of trying to discuss and clarify. Again, it's important to stress that this is a process. All these people showed up here of their own will. We're all getting to know each other and figure out what each other wants and define what the goals for this are. But I think there's different levels of goals. I think just being here is a win to begin with. Being a presence, visible presence, that people are here exercising their rights. And we're going to bring awareness to all these issues that have been in the shadows or have been spun in the media for the last 10 years. We're going to give an unfiltered voice to that. That's a win in of itself. Now, if we can pressure to get specific changes, to get big money out of politics, to make our politicians more accountable to us, to make sure that our economy benefits all of us in some ways, and we're discussing specific ways, I mean, that's a tangible win too. So I think that there's a lot of different ways to find it, but this is just the beginning, I hope.
Thank you. I don't know about anyone else, but thanks so much for helping us.
Can I ask a favor?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it.
Can I ask a favor?
Yeah.
Can you identify yourself for my tape? I just came here late.
Yeah, sure. My name's Matthew Patterson. I've been here since the first day of the occupation at the beginning of the month. And I have a job. I come here after work. I come here on the weekends, and I'm committed to this cause.
Yeah. How long ago did you start thinking about coming here and occupying this? How old is this idea?
I myself have been protesting by myself up on Capitol Hill since about 2 months ago. So when I heard about this opportunity, what happened on Wall Street, and then it was going to be starting here, I made sure I was down here on the first day.
How much of this is influenced by Arab Spring, do you suppose?
I think that it's an important element of this. The fact that we can look at our TV and see people in some of the least democratic parts of the world exercising democracy better than we have been, direct democracy. So it's an inspiration, I think, absolutely. And remember, they have real bullets being fired at them. We have pepper spray, so we shouldn't be we shouldn't have any excuse not to be out here with it.
Yeah. At what point do you suppose that this thing might be a violent revolution?
This group here is committed by consensus to be nonviolent,
Right.
to operate within the law.
Yeah.
And we believe that we can get the change that we seek that way, and no one here is discussed or has any interest in violence.
Right. No, I'm not. I didn't mean that as a provocative question. It's just that I met with a guy named Osama Monajed from the Syrian resistance about 2 months ago, and they were talking about nonviolence and getting shot at quite a lot, and that seems to have gone by the boards. A veteran of Afghanistan, I've seen a lot, and a lot of things begin like this, and I'm about as skeptical, at least as skeptical as you are about what's going on over there.
Right.
But do you really think that it's just going to be effective by being nonviolent indefinitely?
Well, I'll give you a good quote that I like from John F. Kennedy, which is if the people don't have a peaceful way to protest, they'll find a violent way to protest. But I believe here in this country we do have the First Amendment, we do have a peaceful way to protest, we have a good relationship with the police, and we're going to exercise it fully.
Yeah.
And I think that even if the American people don't back every single thing that they see that we say here in this park, they will back us on our right to exercise free speech, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Mhm.
All right, thanks.
So in 13 months we have an election coming up here. Do you foresee the occupation lasting through that, through November 2012? And if it does last that long, what effect do you see the occupations across the nation holding in that election, both the presidential and down the candidate?
I am not a fortune teller, therefore it's very difficult to say how long we'll be out here. I hope that we're out here until change happens, and how long that may be, I don't know, but we are committed to staying here. They said we were going to leave when the first rain came. It poured a few nights ago, and it really poured, and we're still here, and we're stronger than ever, so I think we're committed to stay. As to the electoral question, people here are very committed to being independent. We are very wary of endorsing any candidate or any policy that could jeopardize the independence of this movement. Obviously, when the elections come around, I do expect that we will participate in those elections strongly for the best option that we have. But again, I think the concept here is that you can't just put someone into office and expect them as an individual to be able to make the change that you want. You need to keep pressure on them no matter what party they're from, no matter what they say they're going to do, until they actually do what they're supposed to do.
Can you come up with a list of like the key issues that you think bring people to the park here?
It's important for me to emphasize again, I don't speak for this whole park,
Right.
but I do think that if you look at the key issues, the number one issue is big money and corporate influence in our politics. We feel that our government is not accountable to the people that they are supposed to be accountable to be, which is us here, the citizens of the United States.
Right.
So therefore, everything on every other policy, whether it be the environment which people care about here, or energy or education, all those policy outcomes aren't going to be in the interest of the people until our representatives have incentives to represent us and not incentives to represent the people donating money to their campaign.
I noticed you didn't say anything about the war.
Well, that's an important one too. I just didn't think of that, but I think that the war, the military-industrial complex in this country, it's tied into it as well. I mean, it's a big business. War is now a big business, and I think that we here, and frankly, a lot of people, even our armed services, feel that these wars don't benefit largely us here in the country. They benefit the people who make the weapons, who make the bombs, the Halliburtons of the world with no big contracts. And that's our money that's going to those causes with no real benefit for our security here. That's how I feel.
Thanks.
I was wondering if I could pick your brain about some campaign finance reform, specifically about like contributions from hedge funds and our friends at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and the six major I banks in general.
Okay.
I mean, what do you think can be done to diminish the influence of those contributions? Should they be banned? Is money speech, as some have contended?
I'll tell you one thing that I strongly believe in, is that corporations are not people. And when you look at what the Supreme Court did in 2010, ruling that corporations are citizens, they're people of this country, and that money equals speech in this country, therefore there can be unlimited corporate money spent to influence the outcomes of elections, to buy politicians, that's something that's not right. There's other options as far as helping publicly financed campaigns, so independent parties and third-party candidates can have a voice. We don't have this monopoly of two parties in our country. there's a lot of options to be looked at, but we here in this park have not endorsed any specific policy options yet. It could come over time, but I think it's too early for that. But there's a lot of things that can be done in this period for that.
Sounds like you agree with Secretary of State Labor Reich that he will believe that corporations are people when the state of Texas and the state of Georgia execute their first corporation.
Well, it's certainly true that, corporations now have more rights than people in a lot of ways, that they have all the benefits but none of the downside, and that they can't die, they can't go to jail. And so I think that's really a really good point that brings some humor and some relevance.
What's your name?
My name's Matthew Patterson.
Yeah.
I do work for
However, medical